Thank you for viewing this innovation blog, brought to you by Prosecutors Center for Excellence and Equitas. My name is Sophia Roach, and I'm joined by Coconino County Attorney Bill Ring, who started his career in the Coconino County Attorney's Office as a deputy county attorney. He worked for 10 years in a variety of criminal and civil work before going to practice. He was lured back to the county attorney's office and ultimately became the elected county attorney in 2016. County Attorney Ring serves as a board member for the National District Attorneys Association. He is the vice chair of the Arizona Prosecuting Attorneys Advisory Council and president of the Arizona County Attorneys Association. Today, Ring is here to tell us about an innovative diversion program in his community. And so we welcome you.
Thank you, Sophia, and thank you to everyone who supports our sponsors, the Prosecutors Center for Excellence, and the Innovation Prosecution Solutions. As Sophia mentioned, my name is Bill Ring. I'm county attorney in Coconino County in Flagstaff, Arizona. I want to talk to you today about our Pathways to the Community program. That's an innovation in post-arrest pre-charging of individuals in our community whose criminality is really symptomatic of some other stressor in their life that really addresses the social indicators of health, housing, food security, mental health, treatment and health treatment, employment, and a variety of others that we'll talk about in the presentation. So to begin on our Pathways to the Community program, I wanted to address our sponsors. The Coconino County Sheriff, Jim Driscoll, was instrumental in establishing the funding sources for the Pathways program. We did not have the ability to utilize local funding because our budgets are constrained, but we were able, through our joint efforts, to go to the Arizona legislature to receive an appropriation from the joint Budget Legislative Council of $2.5 million that came to law enforcement in our community, $20 million total. Our portion was 2.5 to establish the Pathways program. The other major sponsor locally is our Coconino County Health and Human Services. And that's an important distinction for you to understand about our program, because when it comes to the social indicators of health, realize that those are health factors, they're not criminal justice factors. And so we're really seeing in our vision of this problem that we're trying to identify, define, and address health indicators in an effort to reduce recidivism on the criminal justice side, or even the first criminal event from ever occurring. And so really, if you want to put the emphasis on the right side of the equation here, our emphasis is upon addressing health needs to reduce criminal justice demand. And so we have sponsors from both ends, criminal justice and health and human services. So again, it's a collaborative effort. It's addressed, though we think the benefits of the program will assist and address criminal justice. We're trying to address behavioral health through a variety of community service providers with a program that allows for a warm handoff to a menu of social services and social worker programs that can address the social indicators of health. It's interesting, Sophia, I heard a term for this handoff as delivering people to the gift shop. And at the front end of the criminal justice program. And so although I may not use that term when I'm speaking about the program, the idea is that there's a place where people go before they get to the criminal justice system that can address their social service needs. This wouldn't be successful without a large community effort. And you can see the variety of stakeholders from the community who are involved either in designing the program or in delivering the service. And so this is a multi-agency, public service and nonprofit, non-governmental nonprofit service providers who provide the menu of services and the menu of needs. Marshaling all those forces together requires a lot of work in the community, and we've been working at this for at least 3 to 5 years to try to create a value proposition around this type of intervention, and then having all the stakeholders at least pulling on the oars in the same direction so that we can actually be at a position of securing the funding and delivering the service. It's a coordinated reentry. And as I described to you, the sheriff did go to the Joint Legislative Budget Committee to procure funding for the program. The other interesting mechanism that we have available to us is a jail taxing district. Now, some of the people who may see this presentation will not have a separate special district called the jail tax district to support services at the jail, but we do. And so we have both general fund for the support of law enforcement. We have a jail taxing district for the support of jail, of the jail infrastructure. It's a sales tax, by the way.
Okay.
But then we also secured funding from the Joint Legislative Budget Committee direct from the legislature here in Arizona. This is really the core of the program. What we recognize, again, is that sometimes criminality is really symptomatic of something else that's a stressor in an individual's life course. And it can be a medical problem, it can be substance abuse, mental health, housing, employment, transportation, financial difficulties, lack of health insurance. And what we really believe those to be are those, social indicators of health. If we can address the health problems that individuals have in their social and in their neighborhood and community setting, what we show and we believe will show is a reduction in recidivism. So it actually, by putting the emphasis on the health delivery service model, we're actually reducing the weight load on the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is, we believe, is a very blunt instrument to address the nuance of individuals' social indicators of health. And so we really don't get at the problem when we address the issues through criminal justice. We really need to get out ahead at the zero intercept. Some people will understand the intercept model. At the 0 or the 1 intercept to try to prevent events from ever occurring, or at least to address the risk of recidivism if you don't really get to the core of the problem. We do believe that there'll be a reduction in recidivism and a reduction in a 10% decrease in recidivism could save U.S. taxpayers $635 million. That's according to the Justice Department. And so we have to identify factors that contribute to incarceration. There's a couple, 3 of them here. Homelessness is a high risk factor. Unemployment is a lesser risk factor, but it's still material. And really the lack of health insurance that prevents people from going and getting mental health services is a third of the risk factors. We've actually got ahead of our program design by doing a review in 2017-18 on substance use and abuse among the occupants of the jail. And realize that jail is pre-sentencing, pre-trial. So these are people who are just become involved in the criminal justice system. They're detained in the jail. We had the ability in working with Northern Arizona University, the Center for Health Equity Research, to do a sophisticated study and review of substance abuse amongst the occupants of the jail, even though they're there for a few days or weeks. We surveyed those, and you can see from the results that many of the individuals have had an encounter with substances ever, right? This is in a lifetime, ever. And you can see the prevalence of each of the substances that we commonly charge as criminal offenses. And some of the highest ones, obviously, are methamphetamine and cocaine. Marijuana is high, but in some states now, that's a legal substance. And so other states it may not be. In Arizona, it is. So although there's an encounter, we don't really look at it now as an illegal substance, but certainly methamphetamine, cocaine and crack and some of the others, heroin, are substances that people have an encounter with in our population in the jail. The prevalence of mental health issues amongst occupants of the jail is 7 times what you would see in the general population. So the individuals who are booked into the jail often present themselves with issues that relate to their own mental health. So what we do at the front end of the process is we screen every inmate at the detention facility as part of booking. So again, this is post-arrest, it's pre-charge, but at the booking facility, we try to screen the inmates to identify which individuals have had, some stressor in their life history, and also, for an offense that is eligible for diversion into pathways. And then we try to coordinate the treatment options with the service providers, who are the stakeholders that we identified earlier. So, facilitating service linkages is really saying we want to give a warm handoff, which means face-to-face encounters with service providers, so that we understand that we're delivering a person in a office setting that is not virtual and it's not remote. It's actual physical. And then we try to treat so we can reintroduce people into society with support services in an effort to reduce recidivism. So again, initial screening, there'll be a post-screening report. This is all generated before a judge even sees the case at an initial appearance. And if a judge believes that the person could benefit from a coordinated release or this type of diversion, this will be, in a sense, condoned by the court, blessed by the court. And I think part of that is to give the individual who's involved not only a sense that people are paying attention and people are caring about this, but that there is some consequence for failure at the end if you don't follow through with the treatment services. And Sophia, the consequence that we foresee is we institute the charge and we go ahead and prosecute the case. And by the way, that's one of the roles that the public defender's office would play in this Pathways to Community, is we're really not in a position as prosecutors to counsel the suspect, the accused, about what their rights are or what their consequences may be, what engagement in this type of agreement means to them. The public defender's office has a critical role in being able to sit with a client and explain to them the benefits of the program, the obligations of the program, the responsibility that they have in the course of duration for this program, which we see is about 6 months of engagement and encounter, and the consequences for failure. And so, although we're the prosecutors, we're in a sense the sponsors of this program, we really depend on our partners in the public defense community or in the defense community to actually, deliver to their client the consequences of success and the consequences of failure. So this is, in a sense, a map of how the program would be administered. And you can see it's arrest, there's a booking in the jail, and then there's the health assessment, the review of the criteria that may mean that this person is eligible for the program and could benefit from the program, and it's given to the court for an initial hearing, initial appearance. And at initial appearance, if there is the appearance of some form of success, you can see that the individual is deferred to the Pathways team, and then the Pathways team is on site and able to address, those social indicators of health. And what we're doing is we're going to suspend prosecution so that the individual can be the beneficiary of the services that are delivered by the stakeholders. There's a review process. There's a review process, and then at the end of that process, we either determine that it's been successful and we dismiss charges, or it's not been successful and we reinstitute. Now, this is important for people to know. The person, as you can see in the flow, does not remain in custody. They're released back into the community with some support assistance from adult probation, who is able to at least make periodic contacts or receive a contact from the involved individual to get progress report on successful management of this person in the release condition pre-charge.
And can I ask you, at that initial court appearance, when the judge is making a decision to release or not release, does participation in the program become an order that release is conditioned on, or is there some other mechanism that you have for compliance?
Well, it is, release is conditioned upon engagement and participation in the Pathways program, which is why adult probation wants to be pinged by the individual at regular intervals, knowing that they've remained engaged and that they haven't decompensated, for instance. And we expect a modicum of ebb and flow with a person's performance. I mean, there are times when they may decompensate. We understand that. It's sometimes part of treating addiction. It's sometimes part of trying to get the right management of mental health issues. We understand that, and we don't expect perfect performance. What we do expect is that they stay in touch and they be engaged in the program, and that they also participate in their own success. The real innovation, Sophia, will happen when we gain confidence with this program, and the prosecutor can make a decision prior to an initial appearance about deflection to Pathways without the involvement of the court. Because at that point, when you're presenting the situation to a judge on the bench, now this person is criminal justice involved.
Right.
And we're trying to preload this. But what we really need to do is have some success at implementation. And then we can start to modify and amend in a way that makes it successful based upon our experiences in the administration of the program. This is what it looks like, Sophia. So this is a building that's been vacated adjacent to the jail. It's managed by the jail district. The jail district, you recall, was one of those taxing entities.
Right.
This is a property that belongs to the jail district. It's an empty building. It used to be utilized for some other types of adult probation programming, as I recall, but there's a spot for the prosecutor. You might see that on the left. This is some administrative space for a prosecutor to reside at, to evaluate cases as they enter into the eligibility determination for Pathways. The real important picture is the one on the right, which is the hallway. Some have called this the gift shop. This is the hallway. In each of those cells, offices that go down the hallway, will be a service provider, whether it's health services, mental health services, housing, food security, potential employment. There will be service providers in that hallway, and a social worker can, having identified, pre-screened and identified the social service need, the social worker can walk the individual down the hallway to the right door for the warm handoff to a person who's there to attempt to solve problems in that person's life that are related to the social indicators of health. So you can imagine down this hallway is as I said, health service, mental health service, housing, food, employment, transportation, and the variety of other service providers that we think of as the menu of services this program will provide. This is what we think success will look like. We can identify people who have substance abuses and social service needs. We can shorten the average length of stay in jail, which is actually how you speak to individuals who may have a more conservative view of what pathways ought to accomplish. This is, in a sense, a budget reduction effort in the criminal justice system to deleverage all the cost that we spend in the criminal justice system and redirect it to health services and shorten the length of time and stay. We hope to reduce the number of incarcerated individuals with substance abuse, where they're and mental health issues. And on substance abuse, it's where people are actually suffering from addiction. If we don't address the addiction, we can expect recidivism. If we do address the addiction, we might expect a reduction in recidivism. I've got to say to everyone, in my view, as the prosecutor in this jurisdiction, this is not for people who are selling drugs. And this is not for people who are selling drugs to support their own habit. The sale of dangerous narcotic drugs is a public safety issue that justly belongs in the criminal justice system. So this is really for people who are possessing for personal use, who are suffering from addictions, and the attempt is to address the addiction to reduce recidivism. Likewise with mental health. And again, what we hope to do is reduce our recidivism rates, de-emphasize the weight we give to criminal justice, and put the emphasis in public health and public health services. And so that's really what I have for you, Sophia. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have or that this might raise in your mind.
You know, I'm curious. What do you offer as the key piece of advice to prosecutors who are venturing into this type of partnership? And what have you found most important to know throughout this process? Some hiccup that others might be able to avoid because you've been through it.
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. And you know, I'll answer it at a little higher level and then I can drill down on it. But have endurance. Like I was saying at the beginning, you know, this took 3 to 5 years of gathering stakeholders and hearing from stakeholders and, you know, going to, in our case, a county board of supervisors. Some people have county commissioners or county freeholders. Going to them and explaining what it is that you want to do and why it helps the community and the budget. Now, the most creative thing we had to do is find a funding source because our general fund in the county was not capable of releasing $2.5 million on an experiment. And so be persistent about your funding sources and be creative. There could be private grant money out there for this type of a program, but we went directly to the state legislature, bypassing general fund obligations and going and finding special money to try to implement this. And it turns out it took 3 years, but we were successful in doing that. Having a good relationship with the courts and prosecutors and public defenders, and understanding where your boundaries are with persons that you may ordinarily be adversaries with. You know, there are boundaries. There are places where a prosecutor will not go with a program like this. And there'll be perhaps the defense community that wants to pack more people into a program like this. And so understanding where those boundaries are, but just because you have boundaries doesn't mean you have major disagreements. There will be like Venn diagrams that overlap. There will be large areas of commonality of interest. And just utilize that space to try to do something good for your community. And maybe you will be successful. The last thing I would tell you is that oftentimes a program like this takes a champion. We visited 2 programs in Florida, one in the Miami Beach area and one in Tampa. And in Miami Beach, the champion was a judge. In Tampa, it was the sheriff. In our county, it's the sheriff and the county attorney. It can be anyone. It could be a public defender somewhere who's a champion of a program like this. Every program needs a champion, and the champion has to have 2 qualities: leadership and the ability to take a risk, right? To be an action figure, right? Every champion is an action figure, and you need an action figure to get a program like this done. So it doesn't matter who that person is, they just have to be well-informed, capable of rounding up a coalition of stakeholders, able to organize to find the money and the location, and have enough gravitas to introduce this program to the courts as an alternative to criminal justice involved prosecutions. So that's my advice.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this innovation with us. And thank you to us. If you'd like to share an innovation, please contact PCE at contactpce@pceinc.org. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sophia.